What would it feel like to be truly, deeply happy, regardless of your circumstances? Did you know that happiness is a choice and not a result? That you can create your life on purpose? Join us now to learn more. This is the Time to Rise and Thrive radio show. And here's your host, mindset coach, and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott.
Hello and welcome. Welcome to Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I am your host, Jackie Mott, mindset and empowerment expert. Today we are talking about who am I? Who am I? What a loaded question, right? So as we go through today's show, we're going to be talking about all kinds of factors that sort of affect how we perceive ourselves and what we can do to get to that place of genuine appreciation and love for who you are, for how you show up in the world, all of that kind of stuff. So if these are things that you struggle with, you are in the right place with me today, my friend. Yay. So on Time to Rise and Thrive, what we do every Friday afternoon is that we talk about the subliminal soundtrack, and I'll give you a little bit of a what is that thing in just a moment, but we talk about the subliminal soundtrack, how to get it working for you rather than against you. We talk about recognizing your unique beauty, your value, the contribution that only you can bring to the world. It's so exciting to talk about this stuff because in my experience growing up, in my experience through most of my adult life, those things weren't even on my radar. And that's why it's important for us to have these conversations, because if we're not aware of them, if we're not even thinking about these things, how do we shift them? How do we change them around? How do we start to perceive ourselves as beautiful, amazing creations who bring something unique and special that nobody else can bring to the world? Yeah. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to dig into this. Who am I? All right. So one of the most vital steps in learning how to love yourself, and if you have not gotten there yet, I'm going to tell you that the moment that I started to really perceive who and what I was, my entire world changed. My entire world changed. All of a sudden, I saw that thing that was special about Jackie that other people had told me was there for years. But until I saw it for myself, I didn't even know. Do you understand what I'm saying? I didn't even know it was there. When we hear from other people, think about this in your life. You hear about it, you hear about it, you hear about it. You can have sort of a belief that it must be true because everybody's saying it. But once you see it for yourself, once you experience it for yourself, everything will change in your life. One of the most vital steps in doing this is starting to ask yourself, who am I? Who am I really? Like, take it apart layer by layer. Who am I? What makes me unique? What makes me special? What makes me hard to be around? Do you see? All of those pieces are necessary to make up you. You can't be who you are. You can't be who you were created to be without all of the pieces, even the ones that you might not really like so much. So when we start to ask this question, one of the things that we need to really deal with is some of that conditioning that happens, especially the conditioning that happens when we are very young, because when we're very young, we're sponges, right? We don't know anything. We're learning from the people around us. We're learning from our experiences in the world. We're learning from everything that happens in our world. So when you are that kind of a blank slate, you are a sponge and you absorb everything, good and bad, everything. And then, once you get a little bit older, then you can start to say, that doesn't work for me anymore. That doesn't work for me. It may be true for you. It's not exactly true for me. And that's the subliminal soundtrack. So now I'll share with you what that means. So subliminal soundtrack is this loop of messages that's in the back of your mind, and it's playing all day, every day. It's made up of little bits of information that you've picked up throughout the course of your life. So every relationship you've been part of, every conversation you've had, every lesson you've learned, every single experience has given you little bits of information that you've stored back there on that subliminal soundtrack. And we use that information to create our belief systems. So what does it mean to love or be loved? What does it mean to have money or not have money? What does it mean to be successful? What does it mean to be a man or a woman? Do you see what I'm saying? All of that stuff is tied up on those belief systems that are formed on the subliminal soundtrack. So if you're in a position where things aren't really working for you, very often your subliminal soundtrack is a place that you need to look. It's also one of the things that we don't talk about very much, which is why I do this show. We don't talk about it very much because people don't really think about it. The conditioning that we experience as we're growing up will really influence and impact those things and how we perceive ourselves, how we perceive the world in general. Two really quick points about this subliminal soundtrack that I find absolutely fascinating. The first one, what we believe to be true will be true for us, even if it's based on completely incorrect information. Second one, we create our circumstances to support the belief systems that we carry. So if you have a belief system, think about this for a second. You have a belief system that's formed on incorrect information, and you have then created your circumstances based on that belief system that's formed on incorrect information. It can be hard to achieve the things that you want to achieve in your life. In fact, sometimes we can't even see things that are standing right in front of us. So when we dig into the subliminal soundtrack, we start to work on those messages, the ones that are working for us, the ones that are helpful and positive. Those are the ones we keep. The other ones we work on shifting those around so that they actually support us creating the life that we desire, not a life that's based on those belief systems. Okay. So that's what I do. And I love to do it. It's so much fun for me to be sitting with somebody. And I mean, this has been going on my entire life, to be perfectly honest. It's been my work for the last few years. But in when you have somebody who is struggling, they're kind of hung up, they're kind of stuck, they know what they want, but they can't figure out what they're doing wrong. And then we can shift some of those things around. And before you know it, their position changes, their belief systems change, the things that they're willing to accept and not accept change. It's so exciting to be part of that process. So let's talk about this thing. When we're talking about this childhood conditioning, this is where I want to start. And the childhood also into the teen years, into the early adult years, these are the things that are communicated very often with very good intentions by those people around us. It could be our parents, it could be our siblings, it could be our other older, adult family members. It could be people at your school, at your church, like anywhere. Okay. And when we're running around as kids and we're sort of absorbing all of this information from everywhere around us, what are the kinds of things that you pick up? For me, and I can't speak for other people, so I'll sort of speak to some of the things that I've been told by other people. But for me, one of the really big messages that I got when I was really young was that I was too loud and I was too silly and I was too much. Okay. So in school, I didn't get in trouble for misbehaving. I got in trouble because I would start laughing. And when I started laughing, I have this contagious laughter, and the entire room would start laughing. So I would get in trouble because I'd taken us off course by getting everybody laughing. Do you see what I'm saying? I didn't get in trouble for the misbehaving. So what did that do? Well, it disrupted the learning environment. I mean, it makes perfect sense. If you look at it from an adult perspective, you've got this kid who's sitting there disrupting the classroom. So now everybody's not learning and everybody's off track. Of course, they're not doing what they're supposed to do. So I would be told to be quiet. I would be told to stop doing this and stop doing that. And the difficult part of this is that those pieces are so essential to who I am. Though they're so central to who I am, it just wasn't necessarily the most appropriate place when we were in a classroom. Do you see what I'm saying? So the problem with being a child and picking up these messages is that we don't have the ability to discern that this is a thing that is actually quite beautiful. This is a thing that is a gift to the world, but not right now. Unless that is communicated very clearly to us, we will start to see these things as wrongnesses about ourselves. Do you see what I'm saying? So think back to your childhood. What were some of the messages that came into your world as a result of what was happening around you that actually kind of bang against those things that actually make you who you are? Think about that for just a second. Just pick one and sort of hold it in your mind for a second. Some of these things could be, you behave nicely, people want to be around you. That's not necessarily a bad message. In fact, it's probably a pretty good message, except when we take it too far. If we behave nicely and someone is doing something to cause us harm, for example, behaving nicely maybe means that you don't scream or shout or make a big fuss about whatever is happening, right? Because people who are behaving nicely don't do those things. So it can get kind of twisted and confusing for young children, especially. So don't be too silly, because if you're too silly, people aren't going to take you seriously, right? This has been a struggle even in my business life, because I mean, you can see who I am. I do accounting, right? I've done accounting for probably 20 plus years now. And I was sort of told there's a way for accountants to be. And we all know this, right? Like the accountants are the ones who are over there pushing the buttons and they're quiet and they don't have much sense of humor. And there's that stereotype. So don't be too silly, because if you are too silly, Jackie, people aren't going to want to hire you. They're not going to take you seriously. They're not going to trust that you know what you're doing. And it's interesting because the exact opposite is true. The people that I served from that place of don't be too silly were a completely different type of client, right? When I show, okay, well, you know what? Life doesn't have to be so damn serious. We can solve these problems. We'll take care of these things, and we can still have fun doing it. We can still have fun doing it. Now, the people that I work with are a completely different type of person, right? There are people who are much better aligned with who I am as an individual. So let's carry this conditioning piece a little bit further. So when we get into our teen years, right, where it starts to be, or whenever puberty hits or whatever, when we start to look at other people in that sort of romance kind of way, what are we told about that? And I want to be really clear about this, because I think things are starting to shift. When I was growing up, there was like this sort of, this is the perfect person. This is the perfect woman. This is what it means to be a woman. You're feminine, you're soft, you're, loving, you're gentle, you're blah, 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 blah. And your bum's this big and, your hair is this long. And do you see what I'm saying? That is the ideal woman. And if you can't be those things, so here comes Jackie, and I am a tomboy, like absolutely a tomboy, skinned knees, the whole 9 yards, playing with bugs, running around, chasing after people with, whatever that I was never that little tiny girl who was soft and sweet. I was quite a nice girl, but I wasn't that. Okay. So then you start to get into that teenage place where you're looking at other people and wondering why they don't look at you in the way that they look at that ideal person. Now, I want to be really clear. Can we just like throw out the idea of that there is a perfect way to be anything? There is no such thing. There's no such animal. There is nothing perfect on this planet. But when we're functioning from that place of, I don't look that way, therefore I must not be attractive. I don't sound that way, therefore I must not be smart. I don't, when we look at ourselves in our wholeness and we believe that we are falling short of something, here's the mold. And if I don't fit into this mold, that means I am not whatever. Okay. If I can't fit into that mold that I believe makes me good at anything or attractive or feminine or anything like that, the fact of the matter is that there are all kinds of different ways to do all kinds of different things. We don't need to find, actually, I'm going to just say, can we stop wasting our time trying to fit into the box for the wrong people? And can we actually step out in all our glory and get busy finding the people who are the right people for us? What do you think? That might be a lot more fun. Might be a lot easier. What do you think? Yes. Yes. So all of this conditioning, what it does is it causes us to feel wrong. It causes us to feel badly about ourselves. It causes us to feel like we can never be the things that that would make us that thing that we would like to be. Make sense? So that's where the conditioning gets to us. Now we're going to head to our first break. And when we come back from that break, we're going to start talking about what do we do about this? How do we break free of that conditioning? How do we start to perceive ourselves and the world in general in a different way? Are you ready? I'm excited about this. So you're with me on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I am your host, Jackie Mott. When we come back, we're going to continue this conversation about actually learning how to love yourself exactly as you are. So stick with us for just a moment and we will be right back.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? This question came to Jackie Mott when she was trying to find peace and purpose in the wake of tragedy. She began to understand that a lot of her pain and choices had been the result of how she perceived herself and her place in the world. And she set about creating a new subliminal soundtrack that would support her in creating a life of abundance, joy, and fulfillment. To learn more about how she did that and how you can do the same, join Jackie on her radio show, Time to Rise and Thrive, every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is the Time to Rise and Thrive show with mindset coach and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. For more information, visit phoenixcoach.ca, where you can follow Phoenix Coaching online. Now, back to the program.
Hello and welcome back to Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I am your host, Jackie Mott. Today we are talking about who am I? This idea of learning to love and accept yourself exactly as you are. It's such a fascinating thing because we get into that conditioning that we were talking about in the last segment, and we can feel wrong about everything in our lives. I will never forget the day that this actually started to change. It was a very difficult day. It was a very difficult day because for me, these were things that I had bought into my entire life. And I had, made myself fit into whatever mold it was. And I was coming up to, I think I was probably in the neighborhood of 40. And I was coming up to that place of like, am I happy with my life? Am I happy with who I am? Am I happy with everything, the circumstances that I've created for myself? And I went to this ladies retreat weekend. It was freaking awesome. My dear friend had created this thing. What did you call it? Harmonics of Healing. And she really insisted that I be there. I think she knew that something needed to give long before I did. So she was really insistent that I show up that weekend. Now, one of the speakers got up and she was talking about this thing that just, I felt it in my bones. I felt it in like the very core of who I am. She was talking about this thing where we go along and we're trying so hard to be that thing. We're trying so hard to do things the way that we're told we're supposed to. We're trying so hard. And no matter how hard we try, we can't ever meet those expectations. We can't ever be that thing. And we can't be that thing because it's not who we are. I sat as I was listening to her in her talk. I sat and all of a sudden I just started to cry because I felt that so deeply, no matter how hard I've tried. And man, I've tried. I love people and I want people to be happy. And I've tried so hard, and it doesn't matter what I do. I can never be that person. Do you see what I'm saying? That was my entire life up to that point. And she said something so simple that completely unlocked it for me. She said, so you're trying to go through life and she was talking about rocks versus dolphins. Okay. She says, you're trying to be a good rock. And no matter how hard you try, you can't be a good rock. You just can't do it. And then she said this, what if you can't be a good rock because you're a dolphin? You can't be a good rock because you're a dolphin. It's not that there's something wrong with you. It's that you have a different way of being. I cried that day. And then I went and talked with her and her partner. And, I did some classes with them because there was something so vital about what she was saying. And I needed to learn more about this. Over the next few years, things shifted and changed and shifted and changed as I got more comfortable with who Jackie truly was, as I got more comfortable with that bubbly, that silly, that fun, that like, I don't have to be serious all the time. People show up. People like me when I show up like this. Everybody's laughing. We're having a great time, right? That was when that whole thing started to unlock. And that is one of those days in your life that you will never forget. You'll never forget it because it just made it okay. It made it okay that I wasn't a rock. Do you see what I'm saying? We have these ideas that it's so important for us to do things this way. One of the things that I've heard over and over and over again, it's like this thing that this is how you do life. You go and you get a good education. Follow me here. And, you can nod along or comment if you can relate to this, but you go and get a good education. Then you go find a good job. Then you get married. Then you have kids. And I guess there's supposed to be some magical rainbow with a pot of gold at the end that when you've done those things in the right order, when you've done those things, now you're going to be happy. Poof, you're happy. Poof. I wasn't happy. I'd gone way out of order in all honesty. I'd never been able to follow that. And there's a very simple reason that I've learned why I couldn't follow that order. It's because there are so many different ways of doing life. There is no one right answer. If we can throw out that there is a right way to do anything, you do you, babe, whatever that looks like. You might get there in a different way. It may take you longer, might get there faster. It doesn't matter. You do you and see how this works for you. Do you see what I'm saying? We don't always have to follow the rules. And sometimes when we follow the rules, it's when we're trying to shove ourselves into that mold to make ourselves fit into something that is absolutely not who we are or the right thing for us or the right way of being for us. So with these lovely women that, that I meant that I met that day, talking about dolphins and rocks, they helped me to understand who I was. They helped me to start to see what made me actually unique and special and beautiful, just as I am. It was life-changing to start to approach things from that perspective. I didn't need to make excuses anymore. I didn't need to make myself wrong and make someone else right. Do you see what I'm saying? Everything started to shift. There were a lot of shifts that came after, of course, as I walked through this. And I'll never forget, there was one day that I was sitting in my office and I have my desk is in one end of the office and then there's French doors on the other side. And I was sitting there and I was thinking about all of these things that were starting to shift and change. I was starting to feel more like me, starting to feel more like this is authentic to who I am. This is genuinely who Jackie is. And I knew on some level that there were things that I was going to have to let go of. There was this, I don't know if you want to call it a vision. I don't even have a word for it, but I had this sense of a freight train. You know how a freight train chugs along and it goes slowly at first, but then it picks up speed. And once it starts to pick up speed and it's got all of that weight chugging along, chugging along, chugging along, it is almost impossible to stop that thing quickly. right? And I had that sense about my life. My life was becoming this freight train. It had been at a standstill for a very long time. And now I was learning things. I was seeing things in a different way. I was starting to show up in my world in a different way. And it was chugging along slowly, chugging along slowly. And I knew that I had no choice but to get on. I knew it. Actually, that's not true. We always have a choice. My choices were I could stay in this place where I was very unhappy, where my body was unhappy, my being was unhappy. I could stay there and keep going and continue to be unhappy, or I could get on that freight train and see where it took me. Do you see what I'm saying? Certain things had to go. There were certain things, there were certain relationships that had to go, because as we start to open these things up, as we start to understand who we are and what we bring to the world, we will align with different things and align with different people. The things that have been acceptable to us in the past no longer feel good, no longer feel tolerable even. So we shift and we change, but the most beautiful thing starts to happen, because when that happens, you can start to see through. It's like there's layer and layer and layer and layer and layer. Each one of these judgments, each one of these pieces of conditioning is a layer that blocks us from seeing who and what we are. And when we can't see who and what we are, we will never be able to recognize how beautiful and amazing we are as a being, right? We can't see it. We've got all of these layers that are covering that up. So as you start to pull those layers off and you start to understand who and what you truly be, it all starts to shift. There's a lightness and an ease that comes into you. And even beyond that, as we get going with this process and we start to make those shifts and make those changes and align ourselves with different people and different situations and different circumstances, again, the other stuff that maybe we've tolerated for a very long time becomes intolerable. The idea of putting myself in that box just to make someone else happy, completely intolerable. The idea of not requiring the things that I need, completely intolerable. So as we start to shift these things, it just naturally happens that we become more appreciative, more honoring of who we are. And then it all starts to shift. I don't do relationships anymore just for the sake of having relationship. I don't do relationships anymore that are not reciprocal, where I am not receiving as much from the other party as I am willing to bring to them. Now, there's a thing where we have to start to understand that every part of us is necessary and vital. So even the things that we don't really necessarily appreciate about ourselves, even those things are part of what makes us whole and complete. And until we can start to go, okay, and I call this dancing with your demons. If you ever see me on Facebook doing some of my little videos, you'll understand what I'm talking about. These are the parts of ourselves that we don't really like very well. But we can't be who we are without every single ingredient, without every single piece. I mean, imagine trying to make a loaf to bake a cake. Imagine trying to bake a cake without using the eggs or the oil or the flour or any number. Do you see what I'm saying? We need to have each and every ingredient in that bowl, or the cake will not be a cake. You need to have each and every ingredient in who you are. And we need to start to honor that, to see it, to honor it, and to love it. You don't have to necessarily love the thing, but you've got to love yourself as a whole. So one of the things that when I'm working with my clients and with other people, one of the things that I ask them to consider is this: would you treat anybody else the way that you treat yourself? That is a very important thing. And that is one of the things that you need to actually do as you're going through this process. If you would not treat somebody else the way that you treat yourself, then you need to change how you're treating yourself. I don't expect perfection from anybody else. Why on earth would I expect perfection from myself? But I did for a very long time. for a very long time. And the really ironic thing is that my reasons for doing that, my sense of security that came from putting on my mask and showing up as other people wanted me to. Number one, it was a false sense of security because it wasn't based on truth. Number one. Number two, those situations are no longer in my life. So I wasted how much time, how many years, how much energy, how much love did I waste trying to be somebody that I wasn't and then lose it anyway? Do you see what I'm saying? It is so vitally important for us to start to recognize who and what we are as we are, rather than trying to be somebody different, no matter what, no matter who. So we're going to head to our next break now. You're with me on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I am your host, Jackie Mott. When we come back, we are going to start to really dig in. If you haven't already, grab yourself a pen and paper and get ready for some tips and some really good questions to think about to help you to pull back those layers and uncover who you truly are, so that we can start to recognize how beautiful and amazing you are just as you are right now. So stick with us for just a moment. We will be right back.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? This question came to Jackie Mott when she was trying to find peace and purpose in the wake of tragedy. She began to understand that a lot of her pain and choices had been the result of how she perceived herself and her place in the world. And she set about creating a new subliminal soundtrack that would support her in creating a life of abundance, joy, and fulfillment. To learn more about how she did that and how you can do the same, join Jackie on her radio show, Time to Rise and Thrive, every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? Our subliminal soundtrack plays in the back of our minds 24/7. It's filled with everything we've ever learned about money, relationships, body, and sexuality, about every single aspect of our lives. If you don't have what you desire, the Subliminal Soundtrack Reset program may be the very key to changing it all. In this 8-week program, designed by Jackie Mott, you'll learn to replace messages that stop your desires with new ones that not only support you in creating what you truly desire, but expand your life to higher levels of joy and pleasure. Go to phoenixcoach.ca today to sign up and begin creating your life on purpose.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is the Time to Rise and Thrive show with mindset coach and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. For more information, visit phoenixcoach.ca, where you can follow Phoenix Coaching online. Now, back to the program.
Hello and welcome back to Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott, mindset and empowerment expert. Today we are talking about that big question, who am I? Now, when you start your life in this place where people are telling you, what's desirable, what's not desirable, all of that kind of stuff, what happens is we can get those sort of skewed ideas about what we should be, what we need to be. And again, when we are operating from that space, what we are very often doing is creating a false persona. Okay. We're putting on a mask that says, oh, here's how Jackie shows up. Here's how Jackie shows up so people will like her and want to spend time with her and blah, 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 blah. Okay. And I mean, great reasons. What we don't understand is that when we create that false persona, all kinds of energy has to go into maintaining that. Do you see what I'm saying? Think about this for just a second. Think about somebody who is so easy for you to spend time with. They are so easy for you to be around. They see you, they know you, they understand you. You know, maybe it's that alignment thing where you get along really easily and really well. Have you ever known those people? Now, think about another person that you don't feel like you can do that with. How much energy does it take for you to maintain that false way of being? How much energy do you have to, and thought and all of that kind of stuff? Because so maybe this alignment for me is all about funny and silly and playful and all of that kind of stuff. But if I'm going to be that, serious accountant business person, then I have to lock all of those things away. I have to push them aside and put myself in a completely different frame of mind, right? That frame of mind, we don't have to be, smart we don't have to be serious all the time for us to be smart. There can be many different ways to do different things. And as long as I am in that place of, I can't be silly, I can't have fun, I can't, do you see what I'm saying? So those are all the limitations that I am putting on myself in order to be that serious person. I don't ever get to let it all out. I don't ever get to show up in all my glory, right? How much energy are you currently using, holding yourself back from being who you naturally are? And what could change in your life? What could you do with that energy if you allowed yourself to just drop that idea, that judgment that says, I have to be this in order to have or be whatever it is? What could you do with that energy if you dropped that judgment? What could you do in your life that if you had more ease in your day-to-day life, if you didn't feel like you were responsible for maintaining that mask or that false persona? It can be difficult when we start to pull those layers back and we start to see ourselves as we truly are. It can be difficult because it looks different than what we wanted it to. And again, that's the functioning from the judgment. That's functioning from fear. Okay. The thing that really is important about this is understanding the freedom, the ease, the joy that you can have with your life, even if you're in a serious profession, even if you are responsible for small children, even if, part of my stuff, I think, comes from that 17-year-old girl who was so terrified that I wouldn't be a good mom. Once again, good moms aren't silly, right? Good moms are responsible and they take care of things, right? Who's to say what a good mom is? Who's to say? So when I adopt this idea of I have to be serious and I have to be responsible, I can be responsible and silly and funny at the same time, can't I? Right? Why do we put these judgments on ourselves? We put these judgments on ourselves because this is what we're told is the right way to do it. So what if we could just get to a place where we could actually start to pull those layers back and see ourselves in all of our glory, in all of our glory? What if you could acknowledge and accept and even learn to love even those things about you that you've been told are unlovable? What could change in your life? Remember, there is no such thing as perfect. There's a movie called Good Will Hunting. And specifically, they were talking Robin Williams, great movie. If you get a chance to watch it, please watch it. Robin Williams has this amazing line. So I'm not going to go too far into it because I don't want to do the spoiler thing, but he said something to the effect of nobody is perfect. The challenge is in finding the person who is perfect for you, their crazy matches your crazy. Do you understand? That's the challenge, is finding that one person who will be perfect for you. So again, if I'm putting on this mask that says this is who Jackie is, am I ever going to find that perfect person for me? No, because I'm not showing up as me. It's all based on this false idea and the security that comes from those things, right? It's a false sense of security. It's a false sense of security because it's built on, you know, built on something that's unsustainable. It's unsustainable. Okay. Because what happens is eventually we get to a certain point, and I am seeing this in more women than I even understood. More women around my age range, this like, I can't do it anymore. I can't do it anymore. I'm tired. I want to be happy. I want to feel fulfilled. I want to feel joyful. I want a partner who sees me and loves me, not what I can do for them, not what I bring them, right? I want something where it's going to be equal and even and partnership, or I'm happy to be on my own. Do you see what I'm saying? It's a shift that seems to happen, particularly for women, sometime around this time of life. We get tired of trying to be something that we're not. And then unfortunately, the what's that word? The consequence, that's not the word I'm looking for. But that can be that maybe your life falls apart. But what if things falling apart is actually things coming together the way they were supposed to be in the first place? What if everything coming apart at the seams is exactly the thing that needs to happen in order to create the space for you to show up and be who you are? Are you prepared for that? Are you prepared for the joy that could come, the ease that could come? Are you prepared to have fun with your life? If that's true for you. I mean, I'm talking from my perspective, of course, right? And maybe other people do like to be serious. I don't know, whatever it is for you. So a few things that I'd like you to sort of play around with in your own circumstances. Number one, what makes you unique and special? What is the thing, when people that you love and those people that are so easy for you to be with, what do they say about you? What do you know about you? What are the things that make you unique and special? This could be things like activities. This could be personality traits. Like I said, silly is me. It works. What do I really like about me? So these are the qualities that I look at myself and I'm like, oh yes, Jackie, I love that you're sassy. I love that you're funny. I love that you're silly. I love that you're, reliable. I love that you're responsible, that you're loyal, that you're da 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 da. But we also have to recognize that there are also some other things in there that might not be so comfortable for us. So what do I not really like about me? What do I not really like? Those things, again, if we're trying to bake a cake, we can't bake a cake without flour. So if you look at these as little pieces of you that make you who you are, the whole you, if you incorporate all of you into this being, if you learn to love all of you, do you see what I'm saying? If you could learn to love everything about you, because every part of you is necessary in order to create the whole, every part. Now, when you have, and this is one of the things, we're going to go into this a little bit more on next week's show. When you have this bulletproof belief in yourself, you have a very clear understanding of who you are. You have a very clear understanding of what it is that you can bring to the table. And when that starts to shift, when you really get it, then everything will change in your life. You will start expecting different things. You will start to go after things that maybe you wouldn't have gone after in the first place, because now you understand your value, your unique value, your unique beauty. When we build that bulletproof belief in ourselves, that's the stuff that happens. So Again, that's going to be next week. So now I'm going to take us to our last break of the show. You're with me on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott. Today we are talking about who am I? So stick with us for a moment. We will be right back.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? This question came to Jackie Mott when she was trying to find peace and purpose in the wake of tragedy. She began to understand that a lot of her pain and choices had been the result of how she perceived herself and her place in the world. And she set about creating a new subliminal soundtrack that would support her in creating a life of abundance, joy, and fulfillment. To learn more about how she did that and how you can do the same, join Jackie on her radio show, Time to Rise and Thrive, every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? Our subliminal soundtrack plays in the back of our minds 24/7. It's filled with everything we've ever learned about money, relationships, body, and sexuality, about every single aspect of our lives. If you don't have what you desire, the Subliminal Soundtrack Reset program may be the very key to changing it all. In this 8-week program, designed by Jackie Mott, you'll learn to replace messages that stop your desires with new ones that not only support you in creating what you truly desire, but expand your life to higher levels of joy and pleasure. Go to phoenixcoach.ca today to sign up and begin creating your life on purpose.
This is the Time to Rise and Thrive show with mindset coach and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. For more information, visit phoenixcoach.ca, where you can follow Phoenix Coaching online. Now, back to the program.
Hello and welcome back to our final segment of today's Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I am your host, Jackie Mott. Today we are talking about this, who am I, and learning to actually value and appreciate everything that you are in this world. So I would like to share with you, there was an idea that was conveyed to me a few years ago, and it was simply this. If you consider that life is a buffet, life is a buffet, and each one of us brings a unique dish to the table, okay? Every single one of us has, here's the thing. Here's the thing. There is not, nor will there ever be another you. There couldn't be. There is not, nor has there ever been anyone else born on this planet who was born into the same circumstances, with exactly the same genetics, with exactly the same family and exactly the same economic circumstances, exactly the same gifts, exactly the same flaws, exactly the same body. There has never been, and there can never be another you. You are unique and beautiful and amazing. And when we can start to pull back all of that conditioning, all of those layers of stuff that has been put on us to tell us why we're wrong, why we're not right, why being a rock is the right way to be as opposed to being a dolphin. When we start to pull those things apart and we start to drop them where they should be dropped, that's when we can start to understand. You have a unique set of gifts that only you bring to the world. Maybe you sing better than anyone else. Maybe you make the best apple pie that anybody on the planet ever made. Maybe you are so amazing with children or with elderly people or with whomever. Maybe you're smart and you can come up with ideas that nobody else thought of before. Whatever your special sauce is, we need it. Whatever your version of that is. If you don't show up with your dish to the table, you're at the buffet of life and you don't show up with your dish, somebody's going to go hungry. Somebody is coming to that table who needs exactly what you have to offer. Somebody is out there that needs you to show up. Maybe they need you to show up in all your glory so that they can start to pull back those layers. Or maybe there's a thing that they can't do, that they need somebody who can, and you're the right person for the job. Do you see what I'm saying? It is so vital for us to start to recognize and understand who we are, and then start to show up that way, right? Nobody can say the things that you can say the way that you can say them. You know, nobody can show up and make people feel comfortable and loved the way that you make people feel comfortable and loved. We need you. We need you to drop all of these judgments that you have, that are a result of this conditioning. And we need you to start to understand who you are and bring it to the table. Only you can do something. And that's the thing that we need to get to. So when we're looking at that subliminal soundtrack, when we're starting to understand that all of those things that I believe to be true are actually incorrect, then we can start to shift them around. So I talked about one of them, right? Don't be loud, don't be silly, don't laugh so much, because that's not okay. And in order to be good at business, in order to be a good accounting person, you need to be serious. But when I change that opinion, when I change that belief system to say, you know what, I'm good at what I do. I am good at what I do. It doesn't matter whether I'm funny or I'm serious. I'm very good at what I do. Do you see? So that's your challenge this week, my friend. That is your challenge. Sit down and actually really start to look at who you are and how you show up in this world. Are you happy with how you're showing up? Are you happy with the circumstances that you've created for yourself? Because here's the really great news. If you're not, you can change it. It's never too late. It's never too late for us to change those things and create a different way of being. So what would you like? What would you like to create in your life? What would you like to create in your life? I would love to hear that. I would love to hear that. Find me on Facebook, Jackie Mott, Mindset and Empowerment Expert. Send me a message through the Inspired Choices Network site. Go to jackiemott.com. Send me an email at jackie@jackiemott.com. I would love to hear what you would like to have out of your life. I would love to hear what you can change. What makes you beautiful? What makes you amazing? These are some of the things that we work on in the groups that I offer, in the one-to-one work that I do with my clients. These are some of the things that we do. And when I start to see that thing light up, oh my God, it is so beautiful to see somebody come to life. Yeah. So it doesn't matter. You're at midlife. It doesn't matter. My whole life has changed like completely in the last few years. And I don't think I've ever been happier. It's true. Some things fell away. That's okay. Other things have come to replace them, because that's the other thing. If you lose people, if you lose things as a result of shifting the things in your life that will make you a happier person, you'll make room for more. So what can we let go of? What kind of energy could we bring to the table to create those things, to align ourselves with people that are easier for us? What could we do if we dropped those masks and just started showing up as we be? I'd like some of that. What do you think? Yes, I know. So my friends, that is what I've got for you today. That is the time that I have. So again, go to jackiemott.com. There is a guidebook on that website called 5 Steps to Create a Mindset Wired for Success. You can find me on Inspired Choices Network. You can find us on your favorite on-demand channels. You can find us on the Inspired Choices Network app thing. I'm sorry, I don't understand technology. So join us next week. We'll be back here. We're talking about the key to your freedom. How would you like to unlock this? Yes, join me back here next Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern. Have a great week. Thank you so much for being with me. Have a great week.
Thank you for joining us for Time to Rise and Thrive radio show. Jackie Mott will return next Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Have a fantastic week, and remember, it's your time to rise and thrive.